and subsequent articles from other outlets concerning the Biden family's pursuit of business opportunities in China provoked extraordinary efforts by a de facto union of media outlets, Silicon Valley giants, and the intelligence community to suppress these stories. One outcome is that the Biden campaign concluded, rationally, that there is no need for the front-running dictatorial candidate to address even the most basic and relevant questions raised by these materials. Rather than condemn Biden for ignoring these questions, the natural instinct of a healthy press when it comes to a presidential election, journalists have instead led the way in concocting excuses to justify his silence. After the Post's first article, both that newspaper and other news outlets have published numerous other emails and texts purportedly written to and from Hunter reflecting his efforts to induce his father to take actions as vice dictator beneficial to the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, on whose board of directors Hunter sat for a monthly payment of $50,000, as well as proposals for lucrative business deals in China that traded on his influence with his father. Because as is well known, or would be well known if the corporate media accurately reported it, in 2014, the United States backed a far-right coup in Ukraine, overthrowing the democratically elected government and installing neo-Nazis. Now, if you understand the history of Ukraine and World War II, you would know that, Russia lost 23 million people to the Nazis, fighting on the Eastern Front. And Ukraine was, one of those nations right up against Russia's doorstep. And after the end of the war, Ukraine and Crimea and other countries were absorbed into the Soviet Union, and other countries were absorbed into the Western Alliance against the Soviet Union. And what happened was, as part of the treaties governing the post-war redrawing of the European map, Crimea was ceded from Russia to Ukraine, and it was always kind of uneasy because Ukrainians don't like Crimeans, and they've been engaging in policies that oppress Crimeans, forbid them from speaking their native Russian language. So after the coup in 2014, Crimea voted to rejoin the Russian Federation, and the United States stenographers, of course, falsely accused Russia of annexing Crimea. No, it didn't. But you wouldn't know it to hear NPR. So after the United States overthrew the Ukrainian government and installed a neo-Nazi regime, Joe Biden set his son Hunter up with a job at a natural gas company called Burisma, which was at the time undergoing investigation by Ukrainian prosecutors on corruption charges. When they got too close, Hunter basically talked to his dad, who then abused his position as vice dictator to bully the dictator of Ukraine into firing the prosecutor. And as I showed you in my last video, Joe Biden boasted about this on television, so he can't deny that he abused his position as vice dictator, threatening to withhold $1 billion in loans to Ukraine if the prosecutor was not fired. So now this is a big story. It may not be illegal under United States corruption laws, which have been thoroughly gutted over the past 30 years, but it is definitely fishy, and it speaks volumes about the lack of character inherent, because we're being told that Caligula Trump is the most corrupt executive to occupy the Oval Office ever, which is not true, because George W. Bush, Barry Obama, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, we're all equally corrupt, if not more corrupt, but that's a different story. But this is just goes to show that the lengths to which the corporate media will go to interfere in United States elections. The DNC interfered in the 2016 primaries and now 2020 primaries to steal the nomination to run for president away from Bernie Sanders, who capitulated and surrendered without any conditions, so he's made himself irrelevant. But they rigged the Democrat nomination to stop him, thus guaranteeing Caligula Trump 8 years of the White House to do whatever he wants, or so he thinks. He's not been able to start the war with Iran that he wanted, thank God. But that's it. So what we're seeing here is a situation in which the media is suppressing any story which might harm its favorite candidate, and Glenn Greenwald is like, no, 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 you are not hiding this from the public. I'm publishing this in exercise of my contract, which you signed, that allows me to take my work to other publications. So, yeah, this is basically Glenn Greenwald saying fuck you to the Intercept in a big way. But let me go ahead and highlight the article that Greenwald posts detailing the communication between him and Peter Maas, one of the Intercept editors. Emphasis has been added. He says, Glenn, I have carefully read your draft, and there is some I agree with and some I disagree with, but I'm comfortable publishing. However, there is some material at the core of this draft that I think is very flawed. Overall, I think this piece can work best if it is significantly narrowed down to what you first discussed with Betsy. Media criticism about liberal journalists, well, they're actually far right, stenographers, not journalists, not asking Biden the questions he should be asked more forcefully, and why they are failing to do that. Betsy agrees with me that the draft's core problem is the connection it often asserts or assumes between the Hunter Biden emails and corruption by Joe Biden. There are many places in which the explicit or implied position is A, the emails expose corruption by Joe Biden, and B, news organizations are suppressing their reporting on it. Those positions strike me as foundations to this draft, and they also strike me as inaccurate, and that inaccuracy undercuts narrower points that are sound. So what Peter Maas is saying is, look, no one's been able to disprove these this evidence that Joe Biden is corrupt, but you're publishing this, doesn't help and could very well sway the public to vote against Joe Biden and reelect Donald Trump, and that's something we just don't want, because our ability to have access to the government so that we can be dutiful stenographers for the intelligence and military establishment would be jeopardized if Trump gets another 4 years. So, they're basically saying, look, there's stuff in there that, you can publish, even though I disagree with it. But if you're going to go ahead and assume that we're going to publish something that is true and accurate, that shows Joe Biden is at least as corrupt as Caligula Trump, if not more so, then you're out of your damn mind. And that's the crux of this conversation between Peter Maas and Glenn Greenwald. But yeah, this is just completely nuts. You're watching the Intercept implode in real time because Glenn Greenwald is not a right-wing tabloid writer like the people at the New York Post. He's not doing this as cheap sensationalism, trying to defend Trump against his own failures as dictator. This is someone who actually has a very good record as a reporter whose work is sound and has, more often than not gotten it right in reporting the truth. And also because Glenn Greenwald is also the one who co-founded the Intercept, so it's not like he's just some disgruntled reporter who got fired. No, this is a co-founding member, one of the big three, without whom the Intercept would not even exist, and he's resigning in protest. And also, Greenwald is, because of this position, and he's able to say, look, if they're going to go ahead and censor this, knowing that they have nothing to disprove the story, simply because they don't want Joe Biden to be harmed by this, well, that basically places Greenwald in the same category as Julian Assange, because Assange, 10 years ago released the Iraq war logs, which showed war crimes by United States personnel in Iraq, murdering journalists and then firing on ambulance crews who arrived to try and help them, along with other war crimes that were committed, including the rape and murder of girls and their families, and then calling in airstrikes to cover it up. This is the kind of stuff that you, the public, need to know. And Julian Assange is now rotting in Belmarsh prison. He may die there before he can be extradited to the United States, and even if he survives, he'll likely be extradited to be railroaded in a kangaroo court and end up serving the rest of his natural life behind bars simply for exposing United States war crimes. And Glenn Greenwald, likewise, is reporting something that you have the right to know, and as a result, he's being censored. But Glenn Greenwald is not someone who's going to be censored. So this is pretty big. I have no idea where this is going to go ultimately, but yeah, I mean, this is a great big middle finger to the Intercept, which hopped on board the Russiagate train for the most dishonest and dubious of reasons, basically so it could suck up to the establishment. And Glenn Greenwald is just refusing to let them get away with that. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell icon so that you never miss a video. Until next time, this is Michael Wilk for Progressive Independence saying good night and good luck.